Good evening, I'm John Marshall. If you're new to the channel, please remember to like and subscribe and go ahead and smack that bell to be notified of future upcoming podcasts. Before I introduce tonight's guest, I would like to share with you a compilation highlighting Robert Baxt's amazing career. Let's check it out.
We know it doesn't matter how they try to tear us down. Caldwell Panker is the best. Thank you. Oh, now you like me. Thank you. Open your hands. Somebody have one. One big one. Give it a big applause. Stay there. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
Love that bound a family together. Because he said, what you were was one big, happy family.
Magic?
How long you been married for? 6 years. Oh, no wonder. All right, 6 years of marriage, that could dull anybody's senses. All right, so for you, I will do this. This is it, ladies and gentlemen, as State Farm Bank tells you all about how you can save money on your vehicle loans.
The vaudeville producers realized there was money to be made. The money.
Have on my show, isn't that right, plate-spinning guy? And isn't that right, British?
My guest this evening is making his second first-time appearance on the show. He is a comedy magician, an illusionist, and an all-around funny guy. Please welcome to the podcast a funny guy, Mr. Robert Baxt. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just great. I thank you for having me. I enjoy being had. Modern technology. Now that we've got this Zoom thing down, we'll have no problems.
Good, good, good. So, my friend, thank you for doing this. It was 30 years ago today.
Yikes.
I booked you as my MC for a few of my shows, and like a good chap, you actually showed up, and you did such a marvelous job. Our friendship continued on through the years. 30 years ago, you were a much different person.
I think all of us were much different people 30 years ago.
You had blonde hair.
I used to dye my hair. I used to go to Japan often to perform. And as attractive as I was with blonde hair in Japan, I was even more attractive.
Yes. Well, I remember contacting you many years later and meeting you at the castle, and I heard your voice around the corner, and I was like, oh, I hear him. So me and my friend came running, and I was like, hey, Robert. And you turned around and you looked me dead in the eye and you said, and you are? And I was like, are you kidding me?
It's only been 30 years. Please forgive me. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing was I recognized your voice, but you had really transformed a lot. You lost a lot of weight.
I lost weight. Yep.
You really, you looked good. I was like, man, and I think I had actually gained weight. So you were like, who the hell is this guy?
Quite all right, but we know who we are now.
Yeah. Okay, so performances are back on, and I hear you're busy as ever. What is going on, my friend?
Let's see. This morning, as of earlier today, I had to get up at 5 a.m. To leave my house before 6 a.m. to do school shows in Redlands, California, which is about a 2-hour drive from here. But they were thrilled and pleased to have me. We did the show outdoors. They had an amphitheater at the school, so it was extremely, very well received. They had not had an assembly program at the school in over 2 years. So they were thrilled, pleased, and excited to have my show, and they're going to have me back. So that was great.
Congratulations on that. That sounds marvelous.
I force myself to take whatever job I can get. I like to consider myself as a general practitioner of magic.
Absolutely.
I do strolling close-up magic, and I'll be downtown at the LA Athletic Club this weekend wearing a suit and a tie and a tuxedo and, doing card tricks. I can do a school show. I do a mentalism show of mind reading. I can do a kid's birthday party. I can do a bar mitzvah. I can do a Christmas show. Whatever you got money for, I can probably do that show.
Do you also teach, instruct online or what have you?
Let's see, I've been doing Zoom shows online, and just recently I've given a couple of lectures online to other magicians' groups. I have taught students one-on-one in person. I've never done a one-on-one teaching session on Zoom because, of course, the difficult part there is you can't quite go, here, hold it like this, and turn their hand into the right position. So it's kind of difficult on Zoom, but I know it can be done. I know Jeff McBride has done a wonderful job of teaching on Zoom one-on-one. And of course, the Mystery School is like the premier place for anyone who wants to learn magic from the ground up.
I totally agree with you. I attended 2 years in a row myself. It was definitely a great experience. I had Scott Hitchcock on the show last week, and I met Scott at Jeff's, and he was an absolute delight. And heck, I had Joan Decor on last night.
Okay, you've got all the Jeff McBride acolytes. Yep.
Yes, and she was she actually remembered performing with you in upscale New York.
Again, I have performed all around the world, let alone all around the country. I'm on my 7th passport. At this point, I have to look at the map to see where I haven't been. I've been to Saudi Arabia. I've been to Singapore, all throughout Asia, Hong Kong, China, Japan, South America, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay. I made it to the tip of the South Pole. I haven't made it to the North Pole yet. Madrid, Spain, England. Yeah, if there's a place where someone wants to see some magic tricks and funny stuff, I'm happy to go.
How many languages do you speak by
Yo hablo español un poquito, pero mi español es muy malo. Yo estoy un gringo, pero yo soy chistoso. That's Spanish. Watashi wa nihongo hanashimasu. Skoshi zutsu naratimasu. Onegashimasu teya wa kani shite kudasai. That's Japanese that I'm speaking. I grew up in an Italian neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, so instead of talking like a Joe Pesci, them, these, and those guys, I can say, Parlo Italiano, come tutte, non c'è male. Grazie. I can get by in some French. Parlez-vous français? Je suis un imbécile. That's very important. I know how to say I'm an idiot in many languages. Ich bin ein Dummkopf.
Being an idiot got Jerry Lewis a lot of mileage back in the day. That's for darn sure.
In Los Angeles, where I live, we have a multinational community. So I've picked up some Armenian, Shad Shano Hagalam, Minch Nor Handipun. In Brooklyn, New York, well, it was an Italian neighborhood. Over the years, it also, at the edge, became a Russian neighborhood. So, Padabaya Paruski, Zedrasvo my drugs. Хорошо. Spasiba. I can get by in some Russian. We have a large Filipino community here, Salamat. There's a Thai community, Kapkun Krup. Yeah, I force myself. If they're going to pay money, I'll learn a couple of words of their language. It makes people feel so wonderful that you've tried.
Absolutely.
Even if you don't do it well. And I trust me, I don't speak any of these languages very well. Yo estoy un gringo. But that you try is the most important part.
Where was the funnest place you ever had the honor to perform?
I was in the Bahamas at a casino there, and the deal was they didn't pay me my regular fee. They didn't have it in their budget, but they said, we'll make it up to you. And they gave me a penthouse suite. Wow, one of these things where the elevator went straight up into the suite. You couldn't get up. Regular people couldn't get up in the elevator. And like when you opened it, it was like a James Bond film. You know, it's like, wow, a sweet. It was like, hey, treat me like this and let me sign for stuff in the restaurants and stuff. Okay, I'll come back here. I'll work again. So yeah, that was very nice. I've also worked at casinos in the Flamingo Hilton, in both Las Vegas and in Laughlin, Nevada. That was very nice. But yeah, I was also at some place in Japan. That really did look like a James Bond villain lair. That's how opulent it was. So that was nice too. But yeah, so was Singapore. So were again at some point they all start to merge together in my brain. They've been so many places, done so many things. That's why, like when I ran into you at the Magic Castle, I had to go. And you are because at this point done so many. Know so many people, it's really hard to keep track, and I'm not senile yet, I don't think.
Not to mention all the lectures and conventions that you attend annually.
Again, my goal is never to pay to go to a magic convention. Every magic convention should pay me to show up to do a lecture or a show or MC. And that's normally what I like to do most of all. I like to MC, be the master of ceremonies for the evening shows. When I was a kid, there was a famous MC. I hope everyone still remembers him. His name was Carol Fox.
Oh, yeah.
The king of comedy. And he was very kind to me, took me under his wing when I was a very young man. And here's a highlight of my life. In the mid-'80s, I won the first prize in the gold medal stage competition of the International Brotherhood of Magicians Convention. So that we're not talking about my local magic club, IBM ring. We're talking about the national convention. Lance Burton handed me the trophy, and I still have it, and I haven't dusted it, so his DNA is still on it. But the MC for that final evening show was Carol Fox. And I'll remember to my dying day being backstage, peeking at Carol Fox through the curtains as he worked that crowd. And then just 2 years ago, when the IBM convention had its convention in Arizona, I was the MC for the show, for that same gold medal competition show. And I got to come out on that stage and look at everybody and go, wow, 35 years ago, I was backstage while Carol Fox was the MC. And now I'm the MC and the contestants are backstage. It's a great honor to stand in the great man's shoes and to come full circle like that. I'm very, very lucky to have had these experiences.
I got the chills just thinking about it. Wow. So what exactly does Robert Baxt do for fun when he's not performing?
You know, there is no off button on the creative switch. If you look around my desk right now, I can hold things up and go, oh, I'm working on stuff. There's a gypsy torn restored thread that only means something to me. I'll tell you what it is, though. When I was a kid, my father's family owned a chain of commercial bakeries. It went bust before I was born. But my grandfather, we used to go to all the bakeries that my father knew from when he was in the business and stuff. And this is the type of twine they would tie up the boxes with. And I've always wanted to do the gypsy torn and restored thread with this twine because it meant so much to me, because I remember it so vividly from when I was a kid. And of course, this twine is very hard to break. So then this is a special type of thing to break, to cut cord with. I've been playing with to get this to cut easily as I do the routine. So what I do for fun is I sit here and work on stuff because I never know for sure. Not everything leads to something. This has been sitting on my desk for a while. I'm still working on it. There's all sorts of odd and unusual things here that I'm working on that sometimes they come to fruition, sometimes they don't. But it's fun to me. This is what I do for fun. Be creative. Doesn't always lead to something, but the journey is what makes it good, because even though it may not lead to a final result what I wanted, being creative always leads to something. I'll use it somewhere else. I'll figure out how to apply what I learned this time to something else. And to me, man, that's the greatest thing in the world, that I get to do this for a living. Yeah. the other great thing about doing this for a living, of course, is this is all a tax deduction. Even if I never actually, wind up doing this in a show, I'm a legitimate full-time performer. This has been my only occupation all my life. I have never had a real job. Wow. So yeah, I get to take the taxes. This room that I'm sitting in is at the office in my house, and yeah, this is a home office deduction. Absolutely legitimate. There's nothing in here but my stuff, my magic. You can see some of my pictures on the wall and stuff behind me. Yeah, this is work, but my work is fun, so it doesn't feel like I'm working, even when I'm working. They say if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. Well, getting up this morning at 5 a.m. to go do those school shows, that was certainly a little bit of work. But for the most part, this is a great time sitting here. And again, everything makes me creative. I got all sorts of books I'm looking at. I got all sorts of props and odds and ends and things. And it's just in my imagination, it all sparks something. And as I have a spare moment and I sit down and I touch something and I look at something and I pick something else up, you never know what might all come together. And I go, ah! And there's that aha moment. That's where it all comes together. That's what makes it great. That is exceptionally fun for me.
I absolutely admire that, my friend, because unfortunately I get up at 4:30 in the morning every morning, and I go and work a god awful job, my friend, and it's not something that I enjoy. And I
You have my respect, my admiration, and my sympathy. I certainly understand. And again, I'm not bragging.
I miss doing what you do, and I want to do it again very, very soon. And I miss that twinkle in my eye like I see in yours. And yes. Ah, but it is the fire that burns within and keeps our spirit alive, my friend.
I mean, I do have a life, though. I have a wonderful wife, and I have an 8.5-year-old son. And that kid is the joy of my life. And I only hope that I get a recording of this so I can show it to him so that later on when he's old and goes, Dad, always playing with his magic tricks, he'll remember and see that I said he was the joy of my life. He is the joy of my life. My goal is, of course, that he should have such a happy childhood that he never has to go into show business. Okay? Let him be an accountant. Let him work in an office. Let him have a real job. Everyone I know in show business is in show business because they're overcompensating. Okay? They must have had unhappy childhoods. And I've yet to hear someone say, oh no, I had a perfectly happy childhood and I'm still in show business. No, for the most part, it's because they didn't get enough attention. So something went wrong in their childhood that they go into show business. I'm doing my best to give my son lots of attention so that he can have a regular life. It's here's something to think about is I respect you for getting up every morning at 4:30 because what I do is like walking a tightrope. Follow me closely. When you see that tightrope worker walk across that tightrope outside over Niagara Falls, it isn't just cool that he can walk on a tightrope. It's that he doesn't know which way the wind will blow when he's halfway over. He doesn't know if a bird is going to fly by. He doesn't know if it's going to rain. And my whole life and my whole career, even though I'm a great tightrope walker, I haven't known if it's going to rain, and it has. And I haven't known if it's going to be windy, and it has. And I haven't known if that tightrope isn't going to snap right underneath me. And a couple of times, boy, did it feel like it snapped right underneath me. So there's something to be said for a real job. And I always say anyone who can be talked out of a career in magic should be talked out of a career in magic. Because if they can be talked out of a career in magic, they were never really going to be in magic. It shouldn't be that easy to talk anyone out of it. If you can talk them out of it, they probably had no business being in it in the first place.
I don't know if I could have ever been talked out of it. That was something I fell in love with. Fell in love with magic books early on as a kid, and thanks to Mark Wilson's complete course in magic, I was able to create many kids' birthday party shows that made me a pretty decent living, for many years. And I for that, I'm definitely very
Oh,
thankful.
look above me. That's a Mark Wilson floating Nani right in front of the Magic Castle. Right
Oh
there.
man, I love that picture. That it was.
You know, I keep telling Greg what he has to do. This is Greg Wilson, Greg's Mark Wilson's son. He has to recreate this photo. It's very sad that Mark Wilson has passed because while Mark was still alive, in the full photo, I'm not going to take it down off my wall to show you, the windows are open on the Magic Castle. And I went, you should sit your mom and dad up in the window of the Magic Castle. And then you should be standing in the same position your dad is and float your wife. And we should see mom and dad looking down on you while you're in the exact same pose. Every magician in the world would buy that poster just to hang it next to this Mark Wilson poster. And now, of course, it's very sad. It's too late. That Mark
Wow.
Wilson passed. But there's a whole generation of magicians that owe their lives to Mark Wilson, and there is a debt that we must always pay to him. Respect must be paid.
I do agree with that.
Again, I'll tell you a great Mark Wilson story if you want to hear it. It has nothing to do with magic.
Okay.
This has got to be, again, close to 30 years ago. There is a very popular camp for kid magicians known as the Tannins Magic Camp. It has been running for over, maybe coming up on 40 years now. And I was one of the counselors there for many years when I grew up in New York. When I was a very young man, I think I first started being a counselor there when I was 17 or something. Well, it was so popular that some guy decided, hey, I'm going to open up my own magic camp. And not really knowing much about magic camps, but seeing there was a potential for it, he licensed Mark Wilson's name. And it was now a competing camp called the Mark Wilson Magic Camp, and it was in New Jersey. And they hired both me and Johnny Ace Palmer to be counselors there. Johnny Ace Palmer, in case you didn't know, FISM world champion, the Grand Prix, okay? So, we're there, and the last night of the camp, Mark Wilson himself is supposed to show up. We were all given a copy of the Mark Wilson Course in Magic as our Bible, as our textbook. We're teaching to all the kids and stuff, but wow, Mark Wilson himself was going to show up. And here's the only thing I didn't mention. This was the grodiest, most dirty, kind of disgusting camp you have ever seen in your entire life. It wasn't clean the way the Tannins Magic Camp is. This guy just found some dilapidated camp and said, hey, can we rent it out for a week for the Mark Wilson Magic Camp? Okay, I'm not saying Jason was in the corner, with that mask and gonna stab anybody, but this was not nice. And so when Mark Wilson showed up, they said, oh, Mark, you'll stay overnight with us, won't you? Look, we got a room for you. And they showed him to one of the cabins, the same grody, dirty cabins that the kids and like the counselors were staying in. And I happened to be there when they showed it to him. And Mark Wilson, without missing a beat, just said, no, not for me, and walked out and got in his car and drove away. And we were all like, heartbroken. Is he coming back? It's Mark Wilson. Guess what? The next morning at breakfast, Mark Wilson sails in. And he goes to the organizer of the camp, the guy who put the whole thing together, who licensed his name. Oh, I stayed in a hotel last night, and here's the bill for it. And that's it. That's all he did. And he came and I went, oh my God, that is the definition of class. I hope one day to be as classy as Mark Wilson. And to this day, as much as we love him for his magic, as much as we love him for his television shows, I'll never forget that. That was class, and you can never take that away from him. All right,
What an amazing story, my friend. That is the epitome of some of the greatest. Yes, that is good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Joan Decor just returned from the Magic Castle, and she shared an amazing recent photo of herself and Nani Darnell on her Facebook page. And I got to tell you, brother, she still looks terrific.
Nani Darnell. Again, God bless her and keep her, and may she live a long and happy life, full of health and love, because, man, again, there would be no Mark Wilson without Nani. So, yes, alakazam, alakazwell. Look, everybody, it's Nani Darnell.
One person that I am always very fascinated to talk about and talk to people who might have actually knew her is the beautiful late Irene Larsen. How well did you know Irene?
You know, I happen to know Irene Larsen very well. I first came out to the Magic Castle in the late 80s, and Bill was still alive then. And Irene was like the queen of the Magic Castle. She really was a queen. She not only did they treated her like the queen, she was regal. She was regal in a way that you treated her like a queen because she deserved to be treated like a queen. And you mentioned before that I lost a bunch of weight. At one point, I was a much, much, much heavier man. I mean, I was really heavy. I mean, I was putting the more into morbidly obese. Okay? I'm telling you, my shadow weighed 5 pounds. All right? My baby pictures were aerial photographs. But it was Irene Larsen who first walked up to me when I had lost like maybe just 20 pounds, which, you know, when you're 300 pounds and you lose 20 pounds, not that much of a difference. But Irene went to me, Robert, you've lost weight. You look good. You know, those words kept me going for another 6 months. I floated off the ground when she said those words. And again, that's what a queen does. And that's the type of queen I will always remember her.
I remember having a brief encounter with Irene the night that I was officially made a new magician member. And as we were both heading down the main staircase down to the exit, I remember her turning completely around and noticing my new member pin and saying that it was great having me here. And I remember thinking to myself, my God, this woman is the queen of the Magic Castle. Literally felt like I was in the presence of royalty. I remember for the first time in my life being absolutely speechless.
Of course, when royalty speaks to you, a mere commoner, of course.
And struggling to say something intelligent.
This is why you should always lead a good life, because this way you'll enjoy it twice. Once when you live it, and this every time after that when you remember it. That's why we have these memories, so we should remember. And that's why you should never do bad things, because you hate yourself when you do the bad thing, and then you hate yourself every time you think about the bad thing you did. But wonderful memories, like Irene Larsen saying such a kind thing to you, that's something that lives in your heart for the rest of your life. That's what makes it great.
And then, of course, there was the legendary Billy Mccomb, whom I had the pleasure of seeing his act a couple of times at the castle, and he killed him each time. Shortly after I became a member of the castle, I was attending Terry Lunsford's lecture, and Billy Mccomb just suddenly appeared out of nowhere and told me to follow him. He led me into the backstage area of the Parlor of Prestidigitation and said he was about to share with me one of the greatest inventions of the modern world. Lo and behold, Billy takes out a Ziploc bag and said that this was going to change my life. Look, it'll keep your props together and keep them dry in between each of your bookings, and you can write on with a Sharpie marker just what it is that goes in there. And I thought to myself, man, this guy is crazier than a stick. But I'm going to go ahead and confess that, yes, all my props are in Ziploc bags, individually labeled with a Sharpie. Thank you, Billy. You may be crazy, but you were crazy in a good way.
That was Billy, Ireland's largest leprechaun. Again, they don't make him like Billy anymore.
No.
He was a gentleman of the old school. I'm pretty sure he was the dean of the old school. And other people have much better Billy Mccomb stories than I. But again, Billy was very kind to me. He has a fabulous trick that many magicians have done called the Mccomical Deck, with a deck of playing cards. And when I first came out to the Magic Castle, I showed him a routine that I do that was based on it, which he's written up in one of his books, 25 Years Wiser. But instead of using playing cards, I used boxes of cereal. because to me they were colorful and they were much bigger, yet they were still flat, the fronts of the boxes of cereal. Well, now, afterwards, I wrote him a thank you card. I had a postcard and stuff, and I mailed it to his address, even though he only lived a couple of blocks from me in Hollywood, and said, thank you very much for your help with this. Well, the next time I'm at the Magic Castle a week or so later, I see Billy. And he's got the card that I sent him in his hand, and he's doing this and walking up to people. And he's doing this and walking up to people, and he's showing it to people, and he's walking up to them and doing and talking. I'm like, and I walked up to him and I went, Billy, I beg your forgiveness. I'm so sorry. Did I do something wrong? Sending you a thank you card? I see you walking around showing it to everybody. Was my spelling off or something? And he goes, no, dear boy. Nobody's ever sent me a thank you card before. And I went, wow. Again, that's how great he was, that I had to put it in writing to him, that I had to put pen to paper and stamp the card and go down to the post office and make sure he got it, because he was the best. And man, we're just talking about guys they don't make anymore. Mark Wilson, Irene Larsen, Billy Mccomb. Who should we talk about next?
And then, of course, my other mentor, Mr. Eugene Berger, who, even when I read his books, I can actually hear him narrating it in my head. And he left such a huge impression on me. And I love the way that he taught more or less of the backdrop of the trick, the framework. Your story and your presentation really are, first and foremost, the most important part of your routine. I mean, anybody can do these tricks. Anybody. I would definitely say that Eugene and Jeff were very good and successful at teaching students to take just a standard trick, a regular trick, and putting a beautiful framework around it, therefore giving it meaning and life. And you would take that 2-minute trick all by itself to adding your love and your story to it, your presentation, therefore giving it almost an Oscar quality type of feel, a cinematic vignette, if you will. I'm very, very thankful that you're still doing what you do, because obviously you're still inventing stuff. You're still improving, I believe, some of your products to this very day.
Penn and Teller do my newspaper tear. They've done it on Fool Us, and they do it in their live show. I had worked with Johnny Thompson. I'd shown it to Johnny Thompson. I'd given one to Johnny Thompson, and Johnny actually improved it and made it better and gave it to Penn and Teller so that they could do it. And they do an incredible job, and I sell lots of them because Penn and Teller do it. So that's great. But let's go back one thing. You mentioned about Eugene Berger and how it was the backdrop, the word you said, these stories and stuff. Here's the way I like to say it, and this is not as good as Eugene would say it, but I like to think of this. Magic is just the hook that you hang your personality on. Your personality is the coat that hangs on that hook, so the magic is only as important as that nail in the wall that you hang your coat on. The hook is there just to give you an excuse to share with everybody your coat of personality. And again, Eugene Berger was great, because when he said to me these words, and he said it to everyone, was, magic has many rooms. The house of magic has many rooms. You realized we didn't all have to be like Eugene Berger. We could all be our own selves. Gauguin doesn't paint like Picasso, who doesn't paint like Banksy, who didn't paint like Salvador Dali. But each of us use our magic as that hook to hang our personality on. And that's what makes magic great, that we're all sharing our personalities using magic as the hook.
Beautifully said, my friend. I love your sense of humor as well. I remember going to the castle with you one evening, and you had this piece of paper in your pocket, and you walked up to the one of the paintings, the one with the eyeballs that moves back and forth at the castle, and you put this piece of paper on there, and you made it look like the picture itself was ripped.
Again, all credit where credit is due. It's a Billy Mccomb thing that he showed me. You take a piece of ripped paper and you tear it in half. I'll do it for you right now. Take a piece of paper. It works with wallpaper or a painting. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Everyone who's watching and listening, I hope you can follow along. You make a rough triangle out of it. Okay, so it looks like that. Now you curve one end, so it kind of curves like this, okay? Then you lick the back of the straight side and stick it up against the painting or the wallpaper. And because it's flat, it looks like a piece has been torn out because it's the mirror image on the other side, and it's an extremely convincing illusion from even inches away. And it'll drive people nuts until you just reach over and go, boop, and pull the whole thing off. But boy, again, all credit where credit is due. Billy Mccomb showed that to me, and it was so much fun to walk around. And I've done other places besides the Magic Castle, of course, and gotten into trouble. But Billy Mccomb, Ireland's largest leprechaun. Amazing how the simple things are sometimes the ones that are most remembered. Some guys are out there doing their biddle counts and their Charlier passes and their frustration things, and they can do a pass and all this stuff, but nope. Piece of paper ripped like this. That's the famous Di Vernon line. Di Vernon would come out and do, Triumph and 14 different card moves, and then he'd say, some guy would come out after me with the sponge bunny rabbits until Peter Rabbit goes to town, and that's all they would be talking about. So you know what I do? I do all those tricks that are like Peter Rabbit goes to town. Not that I don't want to do sleight of hand, not that I don't want to do complicated stuff, but it's stuff that only another magician cares about. Only other magicians care about the performance of magic. Real people just want to be entertained. Right? So I know that ambitious card routine, you spent 19 months alone in a room practicing your double lifts just so you can do that incredible ambitious card routine. But since the art of magic is concealing the art, and you can't tell anyone about that 19 months of practice that it took you to do that, what's the point? I could do the same thing with Svengali deck. It would only take me about 6 days to get it down. It would look exactly the same to the audience. If all I wanted to do at the end was switch the Svengali deck out for a regular deck of cards, I could do everything that guy who practiced for 19 months. As a matter of fact, practicing for 19 months, if you could tell them that you spent 19 months practicing alone in your room, they go, oh, that's geeky. What's the matter? Didn't you have a life? So, to my mind, it's the entertainment first. And I realize many magicians don't agree with this. Oh no, it's all about the magic, it's all about the mystery, it's all about the sleight, it's all about how clever and ingenious this gimmick is. Oh, look at this, I spent $2,000 on this, and then Tommy Wonder saw it, and I had to spend $10,000 more to improve it. Great, fine. Again, there are many rooms in the house of magic. And if you like vanilla, and I like chocolate, but that guy likes rum raisin, neither one of us is wrong about which is the best flavor of ice cream. Instead, rather than pointing, no, vanilla's best, no, chocolate, rum raisin, pistachio, we should all just be happy that we can afford ice cream. And that's what we should all get together and celebrate. Again, the guy who mentored me when I was a kid was a master magician. Everyone agrees. His name was Al Flosso. It's a great story. He had a magic shop in New York City, a magic shop that had been there for over 100 years. It'd been known as Matinka's. It'd been known as Ducrow's. Houdini himself had owned it, and the Society of American Magicians was formed in the back room of it. By the time he bought it after Houdini died in the 1930s, and when I got there over 40 years later, 79, no, 70, let's see, he died in 76. I must have been 13, 14 years old with my birthday money. He was still there. Al Flasso, who knew the Marx Brothers. He was a contemporary of them. He and Henny Youngman, everyone, Dunninger was his best buddy and stuff. He was like Yoda to me. He was that old. He was that short. But he was that wise.
Out of your mind you are.
And in all his life, Al Flasso only did 6 or 7 tricks. As a matter of fact, I remember being there as a kid in his magic shop, and some guy walked in and went, "Hey, Mr. Flasso, I know 200 different magic tricks. How many tricks do you know?" And Flasso gave me a wink and went, "I know 6 tricks." I'm sure he knew more than 6 tricks. But those 6 tricks he did better than anybody else in the world, and they made his reputation. The egg bag, the miser's dream, the nesting alarm clock production. Oh my God, he could get so much entertainment and fun and time out of these tricks. He was a pro. So some magicians only practice magic to practice magic. Al Flasso was practicing magic to entertain. And to me, that really is the most important thing. But anyone out there who wants to practice their double lifts, that's okay. Don't hurt me. We can still be friends because you like chocolate, I like vanilla, that guy likes pistachio, that one likes rum raisin. We're just enjoying the fact that we all like ice cream.
Wow, man. Flasso.
Oh yeah, he was a dude. We keep talking about people they don't make anything like anymore. Yeah, they don't make guys like Al Flasso anymore.
I actually went to remember that is astounding.
Oh man, stories I could tell. After Al died, I was working for Al. Here's what happened. I wander up. It's on the 2nd floor above a bar in New York City. Okay, so I wander up there, and there's nobody in the shop but Al, and he sees me, goes, kid, here's $1. Go down to the street, get me a lemonade, bring it back. Oh, okay, I'm a polite 11, 12-year-old kid. I run downstairs, I get him lemonade, I bring him lemonade, I bring him back the change. He goes, good, now go to the post office on the corner, bring me stamps. And he gives me money. I went to the post office down the block and I brought stamps back and I gave it to him and gave him the change. And next thing you know, I'm working there, doing stuff like that, running errands. The one thing he'd never let me do, he'd never let me sweep. He'd go, kid, put down that broom, don't touch that dust. Houdini once stood in that dust. And to this day, I really do have, over here in the corner of my room, I have a vial of dust left over from the floor of Flasso's magic shop. It's no longer there. It was torn down years and years ago. But man, to know that you were standing in the same place Houdini once did. Wow. It was known as the magic shop of 3 wonders because it looked like not one magic shop, it looked like 3 magic shops had blown up, exploded, and all fallen down back on top of each other in a pile and a heap. And you wondered if he had it, and you wondered how he found it, and you wondered how he knew where it was the whole time when it was buried underneath other stuff. So yeah, that was Flasso's magic shop. And again, more things they don't make anymore. Again, retail magic. Anyone listening who's involved in retail magic, you have my respect, my admiration, and my sympathy. That was a nurturing place. Now wannabe magicians go, I looked on YouTube. Now I know how it's done. Yeah. Oh, now I can do it too because I saw the guy on YouTube do it. No, when I was a kid, there was no YouTube. There weren't even VHS tapes when I first started, right? The only way to find something out was to find an old magician and ask. And I was a punk, snot-nosed kid. I'm 14, 15, 16 years old. Nobody wants to talk to me. By the time I was 17, from doing magic shows, kiddie birthday parties and stuff, because when you're 14, 15, 16, they won't let you perform for grown-ups because you're only a kid yourself, but they'll let you perform for 6, 7, and 8-year-olds. I had saved up enough money for a car. It's a junky car, but a used car, and I'm driving around New York. I got gas money. Well, these old magicians, when they needed a lift to their shows or something like that, I go, can I drive you? And Roland Rochelle and Bobby Baxter and all these guys like, yeah, kid. And it was worth it to me to drive them and carry their suitcases and lug them upstairs and help them unpack just to watch them work. Because this was an education when you see them live in front of an audience with real people that watching a million YouTube videos will never do for you. So yeah, that was a great experience watching these guys work. And, I try my best because I know what a young punk snot-nosed kid I was. So whenever a young punk snot-nosed kid asks me something, I try my best to be as kind and polite to them as these guys were to me, so I can pay it back and pay it forward. And hopefully years from now, when those young punk snot-nosed kids are old timers, they'll be good to those guys who are coming up too. Yikes, hard to believe I'm an old timer now. Yikes.
Where do the years go, Robert?
Yeah, I keep it in a box underneath my bed.
Well, give it back, damn it.
Now, Jim Croce song, if I could save time in a bottle, the first thing that I'd like to do is to save every day on heaven and earth. In the end, just to spend it with you. Okay, that's Jim Croce, not me.
Amen. That's a good one, man. That's a good song. You have time in a bottle, my friend. You have some fascinating stories, and I know we're going to have you back on again.
Again, that's the great thing about your podcast, that of course now these memories are saved and future generations can watch this. So we thank you, John, for all your hard work doing this podcast and for sharing it with everybody, because this is history and you're preserving it. So you're doing a great job, and let me give you a pat on the back through Zoom for all your hard work. And everyone listening, be sure to thank John Marshall and be sure to tune in for every one of these that he has, because yeah, this is an education you won't get anywhere else. So I highly recommend anything John wants to do. He knows what he's doing.
I appreciate that, my friend. Your kid's bedtime story time to
As a matter of fact, he goes to sleep in 10 minutes. So we got 10 more minutes if you need me, but then I'm tucking him into bed. I got priorities.
good
Don't forget,
times.
very important. You were booking it not as a magic show. You were booking it as a comedy club show.
Comedy and
I was
magic,
doing-
yes.
Right, I was doing mostly stand-up comedy in those days. I was doing, joke after joke after joke after joke, which is wonderful, because when you realize, oh, look, I don't even need these props. I don't need this stuff. I can entertain just with words coming out of my mouth. Wow, that's great.
I'm going
yes?
to give you some serious credit right now, because I remember almost every show that you ever closed,
Yes?
you had the most mileage out of a damn measuring tape.
Oh, sure. No, I know what we're talking about. Yeah, I still do it to this day. Yeah.
Mom was such a beautiful piece, and I will always remember that and treasure that, because that is such a special.
It's a routine I did with a folding ruler. They don't even make these folding rulers anymore, but long before they were tape measures, there used to be these rulers that every 6 inches was another piece of wood, and they would bend out. And one day I'm playing with them, I realized, hey, you can make all sorts of shapes out of this thing. And again, like trouble wit, or like shapography, or the Japanese thing called the tamasudari, where you make all sorts of different shapes out of things. I realized, hey, I can make things out of this folding ruler. My uncle had been a plumber, and in his toolbox there was one of these folding ruler things when I was a kid, because again, metal tape measures weren't popular in those days. And yes, I got a lot of mileage out of that. But before we go, then let's talk about why I got a lot of mileage out of it. Just my opinion, okay? In my humble opinion. Other magicians who are listening, don't hate me, but listen to what I believe. I believe that nobody cares deeply about the Three of Hearts. I don't care what you think. I think that nobody cares deeply about the Two of Spades or the Jack of Diamonds. They're just playing cards. The reason, there's nothing, unless you're a gambler in Vegas, then that Jack of Diamonds may mean a lot to you, okay? If you're trying to pull us straight. But for most people, they're just playing cards. But with that folding ruler, I used to do a routine about my mom. And everyone has a mom, had a mom. Whether their mom was dead or alive, whether they hated their mom or they loved their mom. When I bent those things around and talked about my mom and made all the shapes about my mom and stuff with my mom, everyone bonded with me the way they can't bond with the Seven of Spades. because only another magician cares about the 7 of spades. Only another magician who cares deeply about that deck of playing cards. Like I said, real people just want to be entertained. And with that mom routine, I bonded with them because they all have moms too. There you go. There's my philosophy of magic. Bond
That's
with them.
universal. That's worldwide. That's every language out there. Everybody's got a mom, damn it.
There you go.
So beautiful, man. Thank you so much for sharing that. You still have that?
Of course, no, I still do it in my shows. I actually have a different folding ruler routine you haven't seen me do. The other folding ruler routine actually came first, but there wasn't any bonding with it. It was just a bunch of clever shapes that you would bend out of a folding ruler and do jokes about and stuff. It was clever, it was funny, it was unique, it was original, but it was just jokes and gags and bits for gags' sake. By
Visual
making
humor.
it about my mom and bonding with them, that's what made that routine great. So yeah, not for every show do I want to talk about my mom, but many shows I do. And it's a great, what we call a soft closer. Just in case, okay, I got 3 more minutes before I gotta go put my son to bed. My goal in life is to spend all my energy on the entertainment, on the actual show. I don't want to spend all my time on the setup and preparation. That's energy I could be using in front of an audience. And again, I got 2 more minutes, but here's the thing, about this. I won FISM with a comedy act that no one has seen me do in 15 years. I think the last time I did was 15 years ago in Japan. They paid me enough money to go and do it for them. But it was one of these magic-only acts that only other magicians appreciate that took 2 hours of setup for 12 minutes of performance. Now, when I'm a young kid and I want to win FISM and I want to be a big star and I want to win the first prize in the gold medal competition, and in my head I want to be like Lance Burton, okay, I'm happy to shove things inside my jacket and have pulls and threads and reels and stuff I can't even talk about, body loads. I could not sit down before the show for over an hour because things had been loaded on me, okay? It was a nightmare, and I literally had nightmares where I would wake up and I would hear them going, "And now please welcome to the stage, Senior Robert Baxt." And I'm going, no, I'm not ready yet. I'm still shoving things in my jacket. And it literally, I would have to get to every show 3 hours early to feel comfortable. I remember being on magic convention shows and we're at intermission and I'm in the second half and I'm like, "Intermission, I'm not ready." And I'm still, and they're going like, "Robert, calm down. We still got 2 more acts ahead of you." And I'm like, "I may not be ready." I could no longer do it. It was making me a nervous wreck. So now I'm the opposite. All my tricks are easy to set up. No chance of breaking. Because that's the other thing about this act with all the medals that I won FISM with. So many things could go wrong. And it was a silent act. Hard to believe. Me, the most verbal guy in the world, doing a silent act. But yes, I did. Because it was a silent act, when something went wrong, I couldn't say anything. I didn't have an ad lib. The thread broke, the spring didn't happen, the button that I pushed to the electricity didn't, the battery was weak. Nothing to do, just sit there with egg on my face. Now everything goes wrong in my act. I got a joke, I got a line, I got a bit of business, I got a backup for it. But man, my life is so much easier eliminating all the setup, eliminating all the reset. I can literally, I said it took me 2 hours to set up for 12 minutes of performance. Now I could do a 2-hour show with only 12 minutes of setup. And again, as a working pro, that makes my life so easy. All you illusionists who have to spend hours and hours getting there early and putting things together and screwing leg bolts together, and you have my respect, my admiration, and my sympathy. Many rooms in the House of Magic, I'll be in the room where it's easy setup, easy reset, lots of entertainment. That's all I can say tonight, John. I'm grateful to you. I got to go put a little boy to bed.
Ladies and gentlemen, nice round of applause from my good friend, Mr. Robert Baxt. Thank you so much, Robert, man.
You're very, very welcome.
You have a blessed evening, my friend, and stay safe.
All right.
All right.
JT Baxt, I'm coming to put you to bed right now. Okay, when you watch this years from now, you'll remember, Daddy was talking about me in front of other people. Why was he doing that? Grrr.
Yes.
See you, everyone. Oh, anyone who's in Los Angeles, come visit. I'm on the west side in Culver City. I own a house with a 2-car garage. We've never parked a single car in it. It's nothing but magic. It's another tax deduction since it really is all my equipment in there. Come visit. It's my little own museum of magic to me. Thanks a lot, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, Robert. Have a good night.